What epidemiologists are now telling us is that being lonely is on a par with smoking 2 packs of cigarettes per day as a hazard to your health. It's as serious as smoking 2 packs of cigarettes per day as a hazard to your health. Think about that for a second. Imagine if you're lonely and you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes per day. How serious that would be. What we know is that when we're connected to the pack, the brain relaxes and rewards the entire body in extraordinary ways. We know, for example, that when you are close to someone, it's boosting your immune system. And I don't mean physically close, I mean just in close relationship. This means I can be on the west coast of the United States, 3,000 miles away as the crow flies, is my wife, and if we're in that right place in our relationship, it's actually boosting mine and her immune system. Scientists are not clear about all the mechanisms for this, but they are absolutely clear that it's a cause and effect relationship. It ain't a spurious event. It's cause and effect relationship. What we know about people who are socially connected is that they live longer and happier lives as a whole. They get sick less often, and when they do get sick, they get better faster. They're more likely to take medication as prescribed, less likely to have problem behaviors, less likely to have mental health issues. It's not even a close horse race with people who are lonely. Another way of saying the same thing is that people who are lonely do not live as long as a whole. They get sick more often. When they do get sick, it takes them longer to recover. They're less likely to take medication as prescribed, more likely to develop problem behaviors, more likely to develop mental health issues. It's not even a close horse race. I believe that loneliness is at the root of suffering for people who experience disabilities, people who are elderly, who experience something like Alzheimer's. It's a number one cause of people with mental health issues. It's not a small deal, it's a big deal. For those of you who work in the field of developmental disabilities, one of the things you've known for a long time about people who experience developmental disabilities is a whole, they don't live as long, they get sick more often. When they do get sick, it takes them longer to recover. They're less likely to take medication as prescribed, more likely to have problem behaviors, more likely to have mental health issues than people typical in the population. For a long time, we thought it was related to disability. My belief is it's related to the suffering of being alone. Our system's response to this historically has been to give people coverage, when what they really need is relationship. One time, for example, I met a man who was banging his head against the wall, and I said, maybe it's because he's lonely. And people said, he's not lonely, he has one-to-one coverage. Well, you can have 12-to-1 coverage and be all alone. It's not about being next to people. It's about who you're next to, what they mean to you, and what you mean to them. It's a lot more complicated than coverage, but that's what we keep giving people. The way I like to explain the difference between coverage and relationships is to say, imagine I were to arrive home tonight, and instead of finding my lovely wife Cindy there was another woman. The first thing I'd say is, well, where's Cindy? And can you imagine how I'd feel if she said, well, Cindy's not here, but don't worry, we have you covered. Guy way back in the room's going, that sounds good to me. Hope there's a lot of turnover in the agency, you know, like once every 3 or 4 months would be great for me, you know. He didn't really do that. I just like that joke so much. You're laughing, but that's the basic mathematics of our entire service system. We're just going to get a body to you, and that's going to take care of things. And if that wasn't insulting enough, then the next thing we think is about is keeping you active and busy, things to do all day, us being consistent, my favorite of all. Well, imagine I were to arrive home, Cindy's not there. I say to the woman who is there, where's Cindy? She says, well, she's not here, but we got you covered. And then me saying, well, do you know how to make a twice-baked potato? And have her respond, yes, as a matter of fact, Cindy did us an in-service training before she left. And now we all know how to make twice-baked potatoes in exactly the same fashion. And be going, well, okay then. She's told us what we should do if you do this, and what we should say if you say that. Oh, well, who needs Cindy? Now you're laughing, but that is in fact the basic mathematics of our entire human services industry. We believe it, and no part of us laughs at it with any regularity as being just absurd. It's not about coverage. It's about relationships. I think an awful lot of people who we meet, that's the fundamental function of their problem behavior, is because it's the only way, the only thing they're sure of that will reliably get us to show up. The question you have to ask yourself is, who this person you know, who you care so much about, who would they be if they didn't have problem behaviors? And if you can't answer that question with clarity, then with all due respect, you might be a part of the problem. It's like the philosopher Tom Harris said, it's better to have bad breath than no breath at all. What a lot of people who experience cognitive disabilities learned a long time ago is I got to act like I don't know how to do things because nobody ever shows up in my life if I'm independent. In this field, independence often equals isolation. People learn this when they're little kids in school. I know how to solve the problem. My teacher goes and helps somebody else who doesn't know how to solve the problem. Translation, I want my teacher to stay around. I got to act like I don't know how to do things. As far as I'm concerned, any study that doesn't consider that as a variable is potentially not worth paying any attention to at all. It ain't about coverage. It's about relationships. Now, as Tricia said, and Bev said too, difficult behaviors do result from unmet needs. The very presence of a difficult behavior, in my mind, means that something important to the person is missing. And we'll explore all kinds of things that might be having impact over people, things that can be going on. Physical pain, as Trish mentioned in her story, is a reason why someone might want to be in the shower all day or be in agony and aggressive. Pain is a common reason for people being aggressive. But we'll explore all kinds of things as the day goes on. I'm just here to tell you, I think the most common reason, the number one reason for problem behaviors is being lonely. It ain't the only reason, it's just the most common reason.